a summary of what we've discussed till now. The GMAT rewards a few things. The GMAT rewards strategic reading, being able to not just read and comprehend, but rather read with a strategy of sorts, being able to anticipate what the author is trying to say, being able to not get caught up by unnecessary details, understanding what's not necessary and being able to avoid that. Right? This becomes very important, especially in reading comprehension. And you'll also be surprised that strategic reading is extremely important even in mathematics. We will see examples of this. Also, the ability to think critically. Right? What that means is that you're able to look at a problem, a difficult problem, and not just go into doing math or not just go into the process of solving something. Rather, if you're able to take a few seconds and think about what the underlying pattern is, what is actually being tested, what is actually being asked, you will be rewarded for it, because then you'll understand how to get to the answer without really spending too much time. And that's essential on the GMAT, being able to think critically and get to the most and figure out the most effective way to getting to the solution. Also paying attention to the right details. If you look at math, if you look at verbal, reading comprehension and critical reasoning, even sentence correction, you'll realize that they're filled with a lot of details, a lot of descriptions, and a lot of data. Not all of them are important, right? But some of them are. What we may end up doing is that we pay a lot of attention to everything, and as a result, we may lose the big picture. We may lose what actually is important and what is not. So developing the ability to look for what is important, being able to, sieve out what is not important. These are important. Again, I will show you how to, or rather, I will show you what kind of behavioral changes you need to do to, attain attention to the right detail. There is also the aspect of pattern recognition. Understand that the GMAT is in a lot of ways a very predictable test, to the point that we sort of know how many questions of each type are likely to come. We sort of know, not really sort of, we know for sure that they can only test you in so many different kinds. We know exactly what kind of questions you will get, what concepts are going to be tested, and even to the point where we know what constitutes or what logic they could use to test you, what kind of patterns, what kind of traps they could set, what kind of answer options are likely to be wrong and what are not. Right? So this is because it's a standardized test, and there's only so many ways that the test maker can tweak with the test, and therefore they become quite predictable. And if you're able to understand that, if you're able to look for patterns and discern them, you'll realize that you'll start doing really, really well on the day of the test and on the GMAT practice test. What is also rewarded is strategic guessing, to be able to guess, not necessarily blindly, but strategically, to be able to ballpark numbers, to be able to, pick an answer option based on data through intelligent guessing. And this becomes very important because some questions may not be, you may not be able to figure out a way to get to the answer, to the most precise answer within the allocated amount of time. So to give you a perspective, if you remember, the verbal section has 41 questions with 75 minutes. That's about 1.8 minutes per question. That's not much time. So if a passage, for instance, is going to take you a lot of time, or if a critical reasoning question is going to take you about 5 minutes to solve, you realize that maybe that's not the best thing to do, because it's going to eat up on time that you need for the rest of the test, and pacing is very important. So what you do in that instance is that as soon as you see a question that's going to suck up a lot of your time, you want to guess strategically, decide that you want to guess here. Remember that a single instance of a question being wrong will not affect your score overall. You can get, in fact, many questions wrong and still get a fabulous score. It depends on whether you chose to do it or whether you were not able to get them right. Again, I'll talk more about this in a bit. So essentially, strategic guessing becomes really, really useful, especially when you're in a time crunch, especially when you're in a situation where you really don't have the time to sit and solve something.